Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. Bulgarian President Rumen Radev, accompanied by his wife, arrived in Amman at the start of an official visit to the kingdom. The Bulgarian leader will hold talks with His Majesty King Abdullah and discuss ways of enhancing cooperation and issues of mutual concern. The Ministerial Economic Team discussed enhancing the pharmaceutical sector's contribution to the national economy and achieving pharmaceutical security during a meeting with the Jordanian Association of Pharmaceutical Manufacturers. Prime Minister Omar al-Razzaz, who chaired the meeting, stressed the need to maintain the pharmaceutical industry's competitive advantage and preserve its reputation locally and internationally, being the kingdom's second largest exporter. Razzaz said the government considers the Jordanian pharmaceutical industry as one of the country's major economic sectors that supports the employment of Jordanians. The Economic Task Force and the association agreed to set up a body to boost productivity. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates denounced Australia's decision to recognize West Jerusalem as Israel's capital. It said in a statement that Jerusalem is a final status issue whose fate is determined through direct negotiations in accordance with international legitimacy resolutions. It added that the Australian decision constitutes a violation of international law and international legitimacy resolutions and is a clear bias for Israel and its policies. Earlier in the day, Australia's Prime Minister Scott Morrison said his country recognizes West Jerusalem as Israel's capital, but added it will not move its embassy from Tel Aviv before a political settlement to the conflict is reached. Morrison explained to reporters in Sydney that Australia's recognition comes as West Jerusalem is already the seat of the Knesset and many Israeli government institutions. Morrison also confirmed Australia's support for a two-state solution with a Palestinian capital in East Jerusalem. Reacting to Morrison's announcement, senior Palestinian official Nabil Sha'ith urged Australia to officially recognize the right of Palestinians to a Palestinian state of their own, with East Jerusalem as its capital. While Chief Palestinian negotiator Saeb Ariqat called the Australian decision irresponsible and said Morrison's administration had done nothing to advance the two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. He said in a statement that all of Jerusalem remains a final status issue for negotiations, while East Jerusalem, under international law, is an integral part of the occupied Palestinian territory. In the West Bank, Palestinians held a funeral for a Palestinian man who was shot and killed by Israeli forces in yesterday's protests in Ramallah. Palestinian health officials said an 18-year-old Palestinian was killed by the Israeli army when they opened fire at stone-throwing protesters. Also in Ramallah, Israeli forces demolished the family home of a Palestinian charged with killing an Israeli soldier in the occupied West Bank. Israel claimed that 32-year-old Islam Abu Hamid threw an 18-kilogram marble block from a rooftop, killing an Israeli Special Forces sergeant during a May arrest raid in Al-Am'ari refugee camp. Israeli forces sealed off the four-story Abu Hamid house and razed it to the ground with explosives. The Abu Hamid family home has been destroyed before and rebuilt. According to the indictment against him, Islam Abu Hamid told interrogators that he wanted to avenge the injury of one of his brothers in a previous Israeli army raid. Over to northern Iraq, where Yazidi activist Nadia Murad, the winner of the 2018 Nobel Peace Prize, has said that she is going to build a hospital in Sinjar. Speaking to hundreds of people in her hometown, she said the hospital would treat mostly widows and victims of sexual abuse by the terrorist Daesh group. Murad was one of about 7,000 women and girls captured in northwest Iraq in August 2014 and held by Daesh in Mosul, where she was tortured and raped. She escaped after 3 months and reached Germany, from where she campaigned extensively to appeal for support for the Yazidi community. And in France, thousands of protesters took to the streets of various cities in the fifth weekend of nationwide demonstrations. In Paris, police were out in force and fired a water cannon and tear gas on yellow vest protesters on Champs-Élysées as they attempted to clear the avenue. Several minor scuffles between police and protesters also broke out around Paris since this morning. Since the start of the Yellow Vest movement in late November, the Champs-Élysées has been the battlefield between police and demonstrators, many of whom have smashed storefronts and desecrated the iconic Arc de Triomphe. United Nations climate talks to agree on the rules of the 2015 Paris Agreement became deadlocked over the monitoring of carbon credits to reduce emissions in marathon negotiations, which have already overrun. A standoff continues over the accounting rules for future carbon permit schemes. This has repeatedly delayed the closing plenary. Countries have been working for 2 weeks in Poland on a self-imposed deadline to produce a rule book to flesh out details of the 2015 Paris Agreement, which aims to limit the global temperature rise to less than 2 degrees Celsius. The 156-page rule book released today is not as defined and ambitious as some countries and environmental groups want, but most of the package is ready to be approved. One of a kind is how Egypt described their new find. The country unveiled a well-preserved 4,400-year-old tomb decorated with hieroglyphs and statues of pharaohs south of Cairo. The untouched and unlooted tomb was found in near-perfect condition in a buried ridge at the ancient necropolis of Saqqara, which is situated within the Giza. The tomb dates back to the rule of Nefertari Kaikai, the third king of the 5th dynasty of the Old Kingdom. Archaeologists found 5 shafts inside the tomb, one with nothing inside, but the other 4 were sealed. Officials expect more discoveries when archaeologists excavate those shafts.
This is the shaft, and we can see the remains of the chiseling tools in the 4 corners. It's obvious clear. So according to the sounds, it seems that...
In sports, Portuguese Antonio Felix da Costa held off a late charge from defending world champion Jean-Éric Vergne to win the opening race of the Formula E season in Saudi Arabia. Da Costa retook the lead on lap 24, and after a safety car period of 3 full laps ensured he took the checkered flag for his first Formula E race win since 2014-2015 season. DS de Cheetah's Vergne snatched the lead at the halfway stage of Ad-Dir'iyya E-Prix, but a drive-through penalty meant he finished second, behind BMW Andretti's Da Costa, with Jerome D'Ambrosio completing the podium for Mahindra Racing. And Canadian freestyle skier Michael Kingsbury fought off food poisoning as he won his second Moguls World Cup event this season and the 51st of his career in Taiwu, China. The Olympic gold medalist posted a winning score of 90.31 despite his illness to claim a 5th straight victory. Japan's Ikumo Hiroshima claimed second, and Kazakhstan's Dmitry Raikard came in third. In the women's event, American Jaylin Kauf took top honors with a score of 83.08 for her first Moguls win of the season and third of her career. Kauf saw off Australia's Jakarta Anthony in second and Olympic champion Perrine Lafont of France in third. And finally, the weather outlook. Cold conditions continue tonight, especially in the Badia and the Eastern Plains, while tomorrow another slight rise in temperatures is expected, but it remains cold and very windy in the morning hours in the northern and central parts of the kingdom, and less so in the afternoon and evening. Possible thunderstorms are expected in the eastern regions, while scattered showers are expected in various parts. Tomorrow's forecast temperatures in Amman, highs of 17 degrees and lows of 9, while in Aqaba, temperatures reach highs of 27 and lows of 15 degrees. That's all for tonight. I'm Dana Abisham. Thanks for watching and have a good night.